Hello everyone, how you guys doing? Hopefully you're having a wonderful day. We are back again with another PWCC Weekly Review where I go through the top 100 soccer auctions this week on the PWCC website. As always, if you enjoy the video, do make sure to leave a like. Helps me, helps the channel. Would appreciate it greatly. But with that said, let's get on into it. Moving on over the website, starting from the bottom and working our way up as always. This week, about $160 to get in the top 100. Also added the glasses, so hopefully I can drop more knowledge. I'm not going to be able to, sadly, on this first item here. I'm slowly dabbling, at least learning, in terms of the 1900s, 1910s, and maybe even 1800s at some point. But I'm not aware as to who this is, so got nothing there. Garnacho here, at some point probably will be more irrelevant than whoever this man is right here. I mean, people are still paying for him a century away. I don't know about that based off of the Man United performances I've been seeing. Nonetheless, Frank Lampard out of 10 going for 162. Above that, this Darwin Núñez PSA 10 goes for 162 as well. Seemed like a decent price to me. I mean, Darwin Núñez isn't really someone that's been talked about much since his initial sort of rumors and move and how he had the one true rookie and all that jazz. That was a bit exciting, but in terms of, third year releases, or maybe it might be second year, I haven't seen nothing too big. We got a Jude SP from Topps Chrome UCL Sapphire, so it goes for 162 and a 10. The Topps Living Messi goes for 162 and a 10 as well. Topps Living sets typically don't get much love, but prior to 2020, they're a bit more scarce. And, Messi's obviously going to be someone that has collectors for him, especially Barca kit. PSA 5, Abril Goal Neymar coming in here at, 162. So I did take a peek at this just to sort of see, and the last sale that we saw here was 196. Before that, though, last year there was a pretty decent price on a lot of these. If we go back to 2022, it was about 1,200. Last year, 600, 600, and then 300. So still dropping. Down 50% almost from the 300 price. So these have continued to fall a good bit, despite not really having tons come to market. Two this year, but that's nothing crazy. Now, of course, there are other grades coming out, so that's to be considered. But still, makes sense. Neymar doesn't have the hype now he surely had, 2, 3, even 4 years ago. And on top of that, being in Saudi certainly isn't going to help. So next to that, we have an 88-89 Desailly rookie. At least PWCC claims. I am not well aware enough, but it definitely is early career. PSA 5, pop 1 of 2, 6 higher, goes for 162 there. Then we have a Bob Crompton from the same says at 1908 Ogdens that we saw earlier. So presumably this is a pretty decent player because I've heard of Bob Crompton, but I have not heard of the other guy. So only way I can really relate to it, but that goes for 162 pop, 1 of 1, none higher. PSA 8 from 1900 does sound pretty impressive. A lot of the cigarette cards tend to grade higher generally, but, something to note. I thought this was a pretty good price. Anytime you can get a Christian Pulisic base card for $170, I think that's a pretty decent sale. But of course, no one collects USMNT, and it's all irrelevant because we're Americans. So keeping it moving. 1970 Gerd Muller BGS 8. This is one of the scenarios where, man, I wish I had confidence in BGS because that might be something I'd be interested in. BGS 8's a very high grade, but it is very recently graded. And I know there's been a lot of 1970 stickers graded with CSG of late, so I've always been a bit worried about that, like CSG grading really high grade stickers from 1970. Just knowing that there are sticker fakes, so BGS inherently I'm very worried about as well. So yeah, if it's authentic, I think that's a good deal. If it's not, then obviously someone paid too much, but how are you to know? And to be honest, I'm not too into the weeds in 1970 World Cup stickers, so it is what it is. We got a Modric auto here from the Match Ball 2022-23 Topps Merlin. Thought this was a Neymar auto whenever I was just quickly scrolling through earlier, but not the case. Speaking of the man himself, we have a red, white, and blue plaid. I think that's what that is. 186 for pop 1 of 11 PSA 10. Pretty decent number, I feel like. I see raw Ronaldo's and Messi do decent numbers, but not like crazy multiples on this. So to me, that seemed decent. PSA 995 Buffon Calciatore. Took a peek at this one. We don't see that high of grade go all that often, although I guess we already have seen 2 this year, 1 for 312, 1 for 264. So down, again, almost 50%. Some of the more pre-modern greats that aren't the greats of greats have seemingly dropped a bit, which, to be honest, I think makes a decent bit of sense considering when you can get Messi, Ronaldo rookies for pretty decent ones for like 1,000, 2,000. Now, if we're talking the best of the best card, it might be low grade, but still 1,000 to 2,000. Typically the other guys are going to have to be a good discount. So I think, 100 to a few hundred probably makes sense. And that seems to be where these have sort of lingered. 1968 Pele, PSA 1 going there for 186. This is a 1954 Oliveira and Benassi Balas that keep Jalma Santos, a pretty fun caricature at least. It looks like half caricature, but then the face is sort of real. It's a weird one definitely, but goes for 192. Pop 1 of 1, none higher. Tried to look this up. Basically, the only other ones I was getting was the Balas Frederico. I'm not sure if I said that right. Probably didn't, but I tried. But yeah, there were 5 sales of that. So those went between 100 for an authentic and 400 at the peak for a 1. So ultimately, a PSA 1 here for the other 1954 went for 200. This goes about the same price, and this one looks a bit better. I would say this one looks pretty beaten up. So just something to consider, but seems within the range of what you'd expect. In Rush Gilded Grass here going for 204. We also have Ronald Koeman 1980 Football PSA 6 goes for 204 there. 80s football not going to be easy. 2022 Phil Foden Auto 1010 out of 75 goes for 210. Cole Palmer, probably a good time to sell that. 210 for a Topps Now out of 99. And then we have a Kai Havertz. So just a bunch of Premier League ballers at the moment, although I don't know, maybe Kai Havertz is a little less, so I haven't followed Arsenal too deeply, but out of 99, BGS 95, Pop 1 of 5, 1 higher. Keeping it moving, we have the treble up here. PSA 9 goes for 216. As we know, famously, I don't talk about treble too much. The large treble sort of sell-off that we saw lately, I sort of noticed how a week or two after they were all on eBay on ComC trying to sell again. So, I'm just saying, I don't enjoy talking about them. The amount of times they reappear is staggering compared to anything else. And there are other things we'll see throughout this auction that do reappear. Don't get it twisted. PWCC is not 100%, and there's obviously going to be relistings like there is on basically everything. There are bad actors, a small percent, but there are bad actors out there. And that's why we see things typically rerun. So 1968 Pele, Calciatore Pele, Velita back here goes for 216 in a PSA 5, Pop 164 higher. Look this one up. I wanted to kind of give a peek at some 60s Pele. I don't typically look too deep into it, but it can't hurt. So this one went for 216. I was looking back. The last sale was 134 in January, so seemingly a pretty decent bump, but also you have to consider that the 134 sale, old cert, really, really bad centering on that. And I also think that, as I always mention, golden scans, they try to make them very bright, but I think it also kind of kills the color. So it doesn't do the sticker justice. Nonetheless, this one does a good premium. KDB, 1 of 1 from Leaf there, goes for 222. A 5.5 R9 goes for 222. I thought this was pretty cheap. We've seen PSA 6s and 8s lately go for really high numbers, almost crazily high numbers, I dare say, but this 5.5 didn't seem to really get that. Now, of course, the off-centeredness is never going to help as well. Fatty Folk here from the Ogden set that we've been seeing goes for 222 and a grade lower than the others, but still Pop 1 of 1. One higher. Okay, so there is one higher. I guess it's a little different in that regard, but also a name that is notable, at least to me. Pele Swedish Record goes for 228 PSA 1. These have dropped a good bit, but I will say that these are probably my least favorite. Other than the, the green album cover. I don't like that all too much. The Gazzetta, there we go. Yeah, I don't like that one. The record I do like if you have Garrincha with Pele and you got the red border. It looks pretty nice in my opinion, but when you just have Pele's face cut out, I don't like it at all, but maybe it's just me. We have a 21-22 Jude Bellingham Gold Refractor Beam Team going for 240. This Ronaldo Sapphire went for 240. I thought that was a decent number. I decided to look it up. Ultimately, don't really know what to think. I guess there's a short print and then a regular out of 75, so make of that what you will. Basically 2 out of 75s from what I understand. But the ones prior, we're in the range of $50 to $150 maybe at the highest. I don't know why this did 240. I guess they haven't sold in a while, so maybe that has some sort of impact, but interesting to note there. Maldini on card 2022 goes for 252. This Emergent Phil Foden goes for 252. We also have the PSA 9 Cristiano Ronaldo SP Authentic going for the same price. PSA 4 of the Mundo Deportivo R9. Now this is miscut, so that's notable. So typically people take off 2 grades for a miscut, so maybe that's a PSA 2 you could say. This row, nothing crazy I want to go ahead and add. I really can't add much on the first one. A PSA 8 2006 Messi's, kind of run-of-the-mill stuff. And a 67-68 Panini Calciatore Pele. You see these a decent bit. Got Velita back, PSA 4. It goes for $264. Notably, we're almost halfway through. I mean, this week was pretty heavy on sort of the mid-end. Not much in terms of the biggest of big cards, so I found that sort of interesting. We'll come to see. There are some good ones, but it's not as stellar as weeks past. Your odd and end modern cards here with an Alex Morgan and an out of 3 Lewandowski. That's just that's where they've really lost me. Like 2020 was sort of like teetering. 2021 and beyond is just crazy. I mean, out of 3s, like, it's nuts. But is what it is. Goes for $288. This PSA 9 Kaboom went for $300. I decided to look that one up because, Kabooms are somewhat interesting depending on who you are. And it seemed like a decent sale comparatively. I mean, one sold earlier this week on eBay for $222. So, almost 40% higher than that. The other sales prior, I mean, there was one for $150 back here last year. So, most other sales were typically around $200, maybe a little bit higher. So that seems like a pretty good one there at 3. This Neymar, what is that, out of 99? Okay, so the silvers from 2014 are out of 25. This one's out of 99, but this is on card. So that goes for $300. Pretty cool card if you ask me. Not that 2018 Brazil was anything crazy for them, but this Aqua Optic Mbappe, pretty cool card, goes for $300 there. I don't think I looked that one up. I did not, so kind of disappointed myself in that one, but I do like the look of that card in terms of also having the French kit. I think that's important. There's a PSG kit, but I mean, of course, I think the France kit should be the desired one in 2018. This really gets no love. I mean, to me, people go crazy for the Prism, but I like this card quite a bit. At least relatively, of course, right? I mean, a blue Prism's going to, cost you a pretty penny. This is just a few $100. Victoria, 1969 Pele PSA 7 goes for $300. Pop 1 of 2, 4 higher. We have a Bremer Fachring from Brazil versus Russia, PSA 6 going for $300 as well. Take your choice of 2022 select and where you'd want to go here. Both probably, decently risky. One way more risky than the other, but Ansu Fati, 1 of 2. Again, with the modern numbering, just killing you. 1 of 2 on this green circle auto with a line through it. Again, just the epitome of modern. You have a 1 of 2 green card with a sticker auto that's just a circle, and it's just so disappointing. I really wish, I know that the people that make these products don't want to do it, but I have thought about it recently that I think like having maybe special products, or if it's an on-card auto, or just certain sets where they actually have to do an auto, like you pay them extra and maybe they actually have an attempt at their name. This is pathetic to me. Nonetheless, I guess that sort of shows you where I'm going with it. I do think that the out of 10 Holland would be my choice between these two. I don't really think it's close. I did sort of have the consideration that, like, is Norway Holland cards really that cool? But I think, eventually, if it plays out, like, Swedish Zlatan cards are really cool to me. Despite not really having many accolades for said country, in terms of big accomplishments, it's just not going to happen. Same thing with Holland, but I do find it at least unique in terms of the kit, because you don't have many good players from those countries typically. This PK seemed really high. I know it's PSA 10, but 312 for an out of 75 of a player where, again, I talk about the treble set, but literally, like, during the heights of heights in 2021, no one really even cared about the treble set. This card probably would have gone for like $10 maybe, and now a PSA 10 goes for $300. Just crazy, at least to me. More so in respect to this being PK. Like, other players I sort of get. There'll be one up here in a second that I sort of understand more than, say, a PK. But we'll talk about that as we get there. Camo out of 2018, Robert Lewandowski goes for $312 in a Gem Mint BGS slab. Base Chrome Mbappe. We also have a BGS 10 Messi. Don't see that all too often, but that goes for $312. Another debate here in terms of where you could go. You got an Alphonso Davies out of 25 PSA 5, so really low grade, but an out of 25 of his most desired rookie, I would say. I know it's not true rookie because he has MLS stuff, but I think that the optic set is cooler than, whatever MLS stuff he has with Vancouver. So $324 there, nearly the same price as the 2020 Jamal Musiala Gold Refractor from the Merlin Chrome set. Now, intuitively, my first thought was sort of, Jamal Musiala Gold, probably the way to go, but at the same time, he has so many options comparatively. Davies doesn't really have much else in terms of, big sets with nice numbered cards. So To me, I'd probably go Davies, but, I could understand both. Getting to a little bit of vintage here, we have a 1970 Editora Saravan of Pele and an SGC4 going for $336. This is a Sindelar. I think it's a playing card. I'm not quite sure what Spielkarten means, but that's what I'm going to go with. I looked at the back, and the back is very weird, which is also what sort of gives it away, I guess. Yeah, whenever I went to look at it, I was thinking maybe it's a postcard or something of the sort, but no, you got the nice little picnic table sort of dressing there on the back. We have a 1968 SGC2 Pele that I'm not going to try to pronounce that went for $348 right there. Sort of wash colors, but a nice picture of Pele. This was the one that I was referencing in terms of, thinking like, people say I hate treble, but just comparing within the treble set, I'd go a grade lower and take Modric every single day of the week over going, same grade for PK now, or a grade higher for PK. Now, I do get that this is sort of a color match, but who cares? I mean, who cares? Come on. This is Modric, that's PK. They're not even close. So for me, I think that makes a lot more sense, but to each their own. We have a Futera Pele piece of something from presumably a game-worn kit. I'm not really sure. I guess we'll take a look to see if it's game-worn, because that is always going to be the distinguisher. I would guess so. I mean, Futera doesn't really mess around. So yeah, so this is a piece of his Brazil away jersey from early 1960s, which he wore in an international match early in his career. So 1-of-1 patch. I mean, kind of cool. Ultimately, I don't know. I mean, I like patches, don't get me wrong, but I do think that if you look at it, like, game worn makes so much sense, but I think that full jerseys make a lot more sense than little cut up patches, especially when there's so much debate around a lot of these jerseys that get sold. Like, if you go and look at the sold listings for a lot of these game worn jerseys or game used stuff that doesn't necessarily have great history behind it, it's kind of iffy on if they were used or not, where they were used. So then once you get it into a card, almost all the questions go away because the company is saying this is real, right? Even though the companies that they bought it from can't typically say that it's certainly real. Like, there's just so many layers to it that I'm kind of put off by it. I think it's a nice looking card, generally speaking, but at the same time, they all sort of blend together for me. And so, I don't know. It's not really my thing, but I can understand why that does 372. I mean, if you have, random cards of modern players doing that same number, then certainly a Pele 1-of-1 patch makes sense. PSA 4, so this is a non-miscut of the Mundo Deportivo. It goes for $372. I'd probably pay the extra $150 and get a non-miscut, but, to each their own. Then we have a Billy Meredith PSA 6 here from the same set we've been seeing. That goes for $372. Feels like a decent number. Decently reasonable number, I guess, considering that the other players in the set are lesser names and went for, nearly the same price. Now, I know that they were a couple grades higher and this, that, so that's going to play into it, but $372 doesn't seem too crazy, especially with an eye appeal sticker. 68 Bergman Verlag PSA 9 Franz Beckenbauer for $384. This TTT Pele, I don't know if we see this all that often, but it stuck out to me this go around. PSA 5 TTT. This has the Beckenbauer rookie in it. I guess a Jared Muller rookie as well, but the Beckenbauer sticks out. This goes for $400. I mean, to me, it seems, when I went through it the first time, I was like, that seems like a kind of a decent price. Looking at sales, it actually really seems like a good price. Last PSA 5 went for $420. I'm pretty sure I checked certs on these and they were not the same, so that was of interest, and I sort of didn't see that. So before that, PSA 4 went for $348, so nearly the price that you could have got this 5 for. And before that, there was basically no high grades. I guess there was a 5 in Golden in 2022 back here that went for $780. But other than that, barely any high grades. So I think it's a cool one. 60s Pele is just kind of tricky in the sense that there's a lot going on. But if you can find a set that sort of makes sense, and yeah, I just realized I got this light shining in on me. Okay, I'll fix this. Well, I tried my best. The light's still shining, but we'll just fight through it. So, yeah, in terms of Pele's from the 60s, what I was saying is that the TTT set, at least a set with a nice rookie in it, sort of sticks out to me. And for $400, you're getting the best player in the set for a massive discount over what Beckenbauer would go for, of course. But at the same time, if you're someone that has a Beckenbauer, I'm sure you wouldn't mind adding a Pele, I would imagine. Above that, around the 400 to 450 range, we have a Pele 2018 sticker auto, a 1902 Billy Meredith SGC 3.5 with an eye appeal sticker, and we also have a BGS 9 here of the 71 bis, but the second year of the 71 bis, that went for $468. So interesting to note there. These have always seemed sort of cheap to me. I don't think I own any at the moment, but the second years, at least always in my mind, are like a tenth of the price. I operate on that sort of scaling multiple quite often in cards. It seems to work out. And I would imagine a BGS 9 71 bits probably goes closer to 10K. I mean, maybe a little bit lower, don't get me wrong, but so, you know, if you scaled that, this would be around 1,000, but at the same time, are there that many people putting together a messy run of Mega Cranks? You know, who knows? A lot of people seem to be focused on color, and I don't blame them. You know, colors are cool. 58 Bremer Fakring Pele here, going for 480 in a PSA 4. Another PSA 4 here with the 79 Calciatore, so I took a peek at this, and yeah, in a PSA 4 grade, this one goes for 500. Last one on best offer on eBay went for 500. Typically, you know, seems like a good sale whenever an auction goes near the price of a best offer. And sort of confirmed, there was a PSA 4 before that at 360. So from the lowest sale that we found, you know, probably up like 30-40% somewhere in there. When we're talking, you know, back in the day, obviously if we go back, you know, they'll be higher at some point. They were around 1,000 for the most part, so they're still down a good bit, but pretty plentiful sticker, not really a great grade, so understandable. This 51 Nilton Santos, not sure if it's a rookie. I don't believe. Typically, I just assume that with the Brazilians that there's probably something earlier, but they're always just so rare. But this one's up there in terms of the highest price paid for a Nilton Santos. The only ones higher were apparently an Alifa in 2021. Can't really look at that. And then a 54 sort of a dollar here in an SGC4 that had sold for $492 a couple years back. So I guess adjusted for the time that they sold in, I think that this is the highest priced Nilton Santos. And so there we go. I got a website for it. It's BrazilianSoccerCollection.com. But basically, yeah, it gives the rookie years, at least as far as this person is aware for a lot of them. 1949 is Nilton Santos. So, yeah, that is not a rookie, but it's still early. And PSA 1, pretty good looking copy for a 1-2. I didn't look at the back, but I mean, you know, most people just look at the front when they're looking at these. So, I mean, it doesn't matter too much. Of course, if you can get a clean back, it's nice. But beggars can't be choosers. Bukayo Saka here, an out of 10 gold breakaway, goes for 504 in a PSA 10. Pretty hard to get, unless maybe you use some services or care cleaning kits, who knows. Then we have a Pele auto that goes for 528. This is a 1960 Jose Innocente Garrincha Bola Narere that went for 528 and a 2, pop 1 of 1, none higher. Tried to look up comps, at least for this sticker, and was not able to find anything. So pretty rare there, and gets a decent number for that reason. Your choice of autos in this row, we have an historic ticket Maradona auto that goes for 576 in a BGS 9. This Ronaldinho authentic that goes for nearly 600, and then a Rafael Leao that goes for 630. Yeah, we saw this rerun, that one probably like a month ago or so, presumably unpaid. I think the last sale was much higher than this one. The Ronaldinho, I was sort of surprised it went this cheap, but at the same time, I mean, we've sort of seen in soccer that if people want autos for a player, they can get them almost, in the sense that there are other people in the soccer space that will get these players to autograph it if it's desired enough. So I can understand being hesitant to throw out too much money on something like this. The auto itself also is kind of in a difficult spot to see. I mean, you see the bottom of it, but surely it fades into him a bit. And yeah, interesting row there. I mean, which one would I rather have? I like Maradona autos, but honestly, the Ronaldinho might be my choice, considering that that's at least a notable rookie. In this row, an out of 25, Erling Haaland Ruby. I looked at some comps in the past, and these were typically 1,000, maybe a little bit higher at times, so down a little bit, but nothing too crazy. Don't really get much love, though. I mean, most other products in 2019, if they're an out of 25 Erling Haaland, gonna do a good number. This one, not quite. PSA 10 Silver Mbappe, and then we have a PSA 2 Gazzetta that goes for 630 there. Above that, Billy Meredith PSA 6 from the F&J Smith here from 1909 that goes for 630, pop 1 of 2, 1 higher. We have a 95 Mundi Chromo Ronaldo that goes for 660 in a PSA 8, pretty good grade, of course, there. Alternatively, on the other end of the spectrum, we have this authentic altered from the 94 Alval that went for 660. This is actually an increase over the last sale, showing off Nilton Santos there. But yeah, last sale for this went for 492 last year, so a decent little markup on that one, and you know, not a bad sign, I guess. Something that doesn't sell all too often, especially in low grades, so you know, about as cheap as you're going to get in at. Kevin Keegan, 1 of 1. Interesting to see there. I don't think I've ever seen a Kevin Keegan auto, but he's got a pretty good one. We have a 1902 Billy Meredith, sort of an in-action shot. PSA 1 goes for 720. I know that I think I've seen some of these colored in before, like these Ogden cigarette type of cards where it's black. Very prone to getting Sharpie on them one reason or another. 2023, 24 Futera, 1 of 1 Messi goes for 780 with It says a patch. Oh my, I hate these types of patches. Like the patches where they're like blended into the card. I guess it sort of looks aesthetically pleasing because you almost don't notice it, but I want to notice my patches. So yeah, I'm not a fan of like the little slivers sort of spread out throughout the card. That's definitely one of my pet peeves. I know I was mentioning the Pele thing earlier, but that's much more of a pet peeve, at least for me personally. 2020 Finest Jude auto goes for $810. Man of the Hour right there. SGC 10 of his Merlin rookie goes for $810 as well. I guess to finish out the full Madrid row here, we have a Vinny Purple from Treble going for $810 as well. Pop 1 of 10, just 3 higher. So kind of getting an idea there. Pop 1 of 10 and a 9, 3 10. So pretty hard to grade, which of course, I mean, thicker cards like that are always going to be tough, but sort of some proof there. We have a 66 Vita Trilco of Cruyff here going for $810 and a PSA 4. Look this up. I was sort of, eyeballing this, but at the end of the day, it's a postcard. I don't know if I'm into paying thousands for a postcard. Not that this was thousands, but it was close to 1,000. Last comp on F4, it was a 4 or 5 actually in 2022, was 2,200. And I guess that one's much more stunning in terms of color, I think. Maybe it's just the scan, I'm not quite sure. I mean, this one kind of looks dark in general, so maybe it's just the scan, but this one, much more beautiful to the eye. But yeah, down a good bit, despite not having sold much. I was going to say, I remember seeing these quite often, and you can kind of see that back here, like in 2021, 22, they were blowing up and sort of selling a lot. And now there's only been 2 sales in the last almost 2 years, and they still haven't really done well price-wise, which is interesting to note. PSA 9 Messi, a little bit cheaper than you'd expect, but one of the least preferred of the Messi, so I guess it's understandable. A Red Prism 2018 PSA 9 that goes for $900 out of $149 for Mbappe. Check this one out. And yeah, last sale was pretty close in December of last year. We also have a couple sales at $1,000. So, I mean, if we go from a year ago, it was at $1,300, $1,200-ish, so $1,600 all the way back in 2022. Not that that matters all too much. We sort of know how that's generally gone, but yeah, I mean, stayed nearly the same price despite not really being all that much of a hobby darling of late, so seems like a decent spot that Mbappe's in. This is a PSA 8 Buffon that seemed to go for a decent price, at least from my initial viewing. Went for $930 there, pop 1 of 3, just 1 higher. And the only other sale we have is $840 last year, so a nice little, 10%-ish sort of boost for the Buffon there. Spoiler, as you just saw, a PSA 2 64 George Best went for $1,050 with an eye appeal sticker. What you think of the eye appeal stickers, to each their own. I mean, kind of looking at that, I could see why it has an eye appeal sticker. Nicely centered, pretty good colors. I mean, I would tend to agree. I think it's at least top 30, without looking at the back, of course. But yeah, comparing backwards, there weren't many PSA 2s. Typically, these grade pretty well. So we're kind of comparing to higher grades. Ultimately, I mean, when a PSA 5 went for $2,600 and a PSA 4 with an eye appeal sticker went for $2,000, feels like a $1,000 sale isn't anything too crazy. I mean, half price for 2 to 3 grades lower, so I mean that sort of makes sense to me and feels like a decent sale, but also, if you're a buyer, pretty decent looking copy as well, so both parties probably go home happy there. 2021-22 Tyson Beck and Topps Messi auto here. That is an auto that I would not trust personally, but to each their own. You decide that on your own. Anything with a coat hanger, I am out. In this row, nice selection of modern. We have a 2018 Cristiano Ronaldo blue treble PSA 9 that goes for $1,500. We have a Messi 8.5 BGS 2014 auto that goes for $1,700. Took a peek at this one. In terms of price, I mean, there's not many. I don't think there was any BGS 8.5 comps, so we got to look at like 9s and 10s and just sort of assume where we're at. The last PSA 9 went for nearly $2,500, so I guess an 8.5 makes sense at that price. Looking backwards, though, these have fallen a bit, but I mean, ultimately, nothing too crazy. I guess a 9.5 in 2023 was going for $2,800, so, an 8.5 now going for $1,700 feels like a pretty decently steady card, I would say. This Fernando Torres, people love the impeccable, and this is an impeccable sticker auto out of 24 league stats here that goes for $1,950, which is crazy, but people do love the impeccable, sort of a nice card set, also meaningful autos in some sort of sense, but I mean, almost $2,000 for a modern sticker auto post-playing career, I think is just, I have no words to describe, because the words I'd use to describe would be just too harsh for this sort of platform that we're talking on now, but yeah, this type of stuff is just crazy to me. I understand it's rare. I understand it's an autograph. I understand you didn't have this type of stuff during their career. But ultimately, when people look back on this type of stuff, it's so, I mean, generally in American sports, it's so hard to pay more for a post-playing career card than during their playing career. Like, I didn't look this up, probably should have, but I doubt any Fernando Torres playing career card is sold for 2K, maybe even 1K. I mean, at highest grades, anything you want to say. Sure, this is rare, but I mean, also the sticker auto just makes me want to puke, but we'll get past it, and we'll move on to the top 3 of the night. So I guess talking about sticker autos, that's going to be a theme here in the top 3, but, you do what you got to do, I guess. I sort of understand it a bit more in, like, 2019 and even earlier than that because soccer wasn't really on the main stage, but, like, a 2022 product, I mean, he's not playing anymore. Get the man to sign some cards. It's not that hard, especially if they're going to pay big dollar. I can only imagine what they'd pay if that was, on card, but nonetheless, out of 99, Topps Chrome green refractor of the man Kylian Mbappe goes for $2,600. Last sale was about a year ago for $3,000. So I guess if we go before that, boom, peak ultimate high pricing was about 5 to 6. So I mean, even on some of the best Kylian Mbappe cards, you're only down I'm going to say down 50-60%, like it's not a big deal. But when you're up so much at the same time, or theoretically could have been up so much, being cut in half isn't the end of the world, especially with Mbappe, who since the, boom, hasn't really done anything. Like in 2021, people were hyped for the Euro and in 2021, people were hyped for the Euro and the World Cup because the Euro was delayed a year. So you got the Euro, you got the World Cup, you got his move. What's going to happen? Well, doesn't do anything in the Euro, has a great World Cup, but ultimately doesn't win, and then hasn't moved yet, and still holds on pretty well. Like, even if the market had stayed where it was at over the last 3 to 4 years, you would imagine Mbappe would be down pretty significantly. So with him having the career he's had where he hasn't really, boomed anymore, and with the market sort of, drawing back a bit, you would think that he'd be down more, but I think that's pretty impressive, at least from my point of view. Maybe others disagree. Next, we have a 2019 Erling Haaland patch out of 25 PSA 10 auto from Topps Museum, and this one went for $5,000. Now, the interesting part about this is that it had actually sold just about a month ago. We sort of talked about this one already. That sale was apparently $11,000. With this type of stuff, it's so hard because, even back then, I guess it felt a bit high to me, but you could sort of, rationalize it in the sense that, well, it's out of 25. There's not many low-numbered sort of autos in this set. I think it goes from out of 25 to 1 of 1, I think. I could be wrong. Maybe there's an out of 10, but I don't believe there is. Nonetheless, it's just so hard to gauge, and that's sort of one of the main problems I have with Modern, in the sense that people want all these serial numbered cards, I think, in my personal opinion, so they can almost blur and make up their own prices and just sort of daze and confuse and then try to sell you on it, right? And so this one goes for $11,000. Goes presumably unpaid. I mean, maybe I doubt anyone paid for it and then sold it the same month right back. So especially when they paid $11,000. So it goes for $5,000. I would imagine this one probably gets paid because that one seems actually sort of like a steal, at least compared to what I've seen some of his other Topps Museum autos go for. I'm not saying I'm running out here and paying $5K for it, but yeah, just something to think about and interesting to see it go again. As always, love the childlike initials that he was able to scribble on there. That is beautiful. At least Messi and Ronaldo have some respect for the game, right? Messi might have his brother sign every now and then, but Ronaldo, I mean, he's pretty consistent on the autos, and both of them put in a decent little bit of effort. That's why they get $19,000 for this dual sticker auto in a 9.5 from Stadium Club Chrome, a red Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo auto. 9.5 with 10 autos. Goes for nearly $20,000, which is crazy to me. Again, with this type of stuff, it's always hard to tell. I don't think there was any comps on this. At least I didn't even really care to look. I guess it's a pop one of 1 and higher, so we can claim that it is a very unique card in that way. But yeah, I mean, as long as sticker autos of these two are going to sell for $20K, I can guarantee that whoever's making cards is going to do nothing but keep on making them. So more power to them. I totally get it. And $20K, I mean, that is just... it seems crazy to me, but to each their own. I understand there's different sides of the hobby, and that is certainly a side of the hobby. So, yeah, that's it in terms of this weekly. As I was saying, I mean, pretty low in terms of the high end. I mean, not that there weren't good prices. I mean, generally, it seemed like they were pretty good prices paid on a lot of this stuff, but there weren't many big cards. So that's just sort of something I noticed. In terms of if that changes next week, we'll give it a peek and go ahead and see. I don't really think it does. I've given it a small peek. We do have an Alifa here, a PSA 1, but a pretty battered one. This is a gold Vinny, which is actually pretty interesting to see. I think the purple went for like 800, so this is the gold PSA 9 at 725 already. BGS 95 of Cristiano Ronaldo here from BGS. This was graded before sticker fakes were things, so you know, something of note there. Not saying it couldn't be trimmed. There are some that I see like that. So just do your due diligence there and make sure you are paying attention. We have this 8 miscut of a 63 Lampo Calciatore Dino Zoff, a pretty hard one to find, pretty high grade as well. And then looking through the rest, there are like some sort of gems down here towards the bottom. This Pele auto, I wouldn't really say gem, especially with that sort of auto, but you know, just something that catches the eye. This Imperial Calcia. Scrolling a bit lower, we do have an impeccable Premier League Stars Cristiano Ronaldo auto. And then all the way down here, I mean, this is kind of what I was looking for. There's a 54 Jaume Santos, a PSA 6 Garrincha, 54 Didi right there, and I kind of have to scroll a while. I guess it's because it's flashed in, but there's a PSA 7 Beckenbauer. Didn't look at the back. I guess I'll just do that because why not? PSA 9 George Weah here. Seems like a decent bet of this 54 set from Brazil with a Zizinho and a Didi as well. A 9.5 PSV R9. I will say, just looking at it from here, that does look a little short. Go ahead and give your thoughts in the comments, but yeah, the top and bottom borders seem a bit short to me, so just something of note. Yeah, a lot of Brazilian stickers in this next auction, so interesting there. With the PSA 7 Bergman, just taking a peek at it. I mean, you know, around these letters, there's a little bit of text loss, maybe down here as well, maybe a little bit. You know, you could argue it, but ultimately it looks pretty good, so I get it. But yeah, I think that's where we're going to call it for this week. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Of course, if you did, again, please make sure to leave a like. Helps me, helps the channel. If you want to see more videos like this as soon as they go live, make sure to subscribe. And we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. Anything you thought sold high, low, maybe something you snagged, would love to hear about it. But with that said, hopefully you have a wonderful day, and peace.